From KPFK in Los Angeles, California, Valley Free Radio in Florence, Massachusetts, WNUC in Detroit, and BikeTalk.org worldwide, this is Bike Talk.
Bike Talk.
Welcome to Bike Talk. I'm Taylor Nichols.
And I'm Nick Richard.
Hey, Nick.
Hey.
Last week we had Jim Cadenhead on the show, and he talked me through how to change a flat tire on newfangled modern bikes with through axles and tubeless tires and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm not a luddite, but I do think the bicycle industry might be going a little bit far sometimes. I was on a ride on Saturday morning with some friends, and another guy joined us and asked if we had a certain tool or something to help him fix his Shimano D2 electronic shifters. And, you know, I didn't know what he was talking about at first, but he said that the electronic shifters got in emergency mode and he was stuck in a certain high gear and he couldn't ride the bike. Wow. And he couldn't fix it on his own because he didn't have a certain tool. And do we really need electronic shifting, Nick?
Do we need it?
Yeah.
No, of course not.
I don't think so either. But does that make me a Luddite?
Not about everything.
I've ridden a bike with e-shifters once, and they are nice. The shift happens right away.
Yeah.
But if it means you have to go to the bike store to fix it every time,
right.
I'm just not sure about that.
It's the same with disc brakes.
That is true. Although I'm learning how to handle some of that stuff, you know, which makes me think, if you have a question for Jim Cadenhead, you know, reach out to us at livebiketalk@gmail.com. And Jim will answer the question. If it's as silly as fixing a flat like mine was, or something much more in depth like fixing e-shifters, Jim can probably answer the question for us.
You can also email us if you've put a good review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever, and we'll send you stickers.
Right? Yeah, a couple of people already have, right?
Yeah, we have Dave in Birmingham in the United Kingdom and Talbina in Brooklyn. They put up reviews and emailed us at biketalk.org on the email button there. And so we're sending them stickers.
Yeah, so you can reach us two ways. You can go to biketalk.org or you can send an email to livebiketalk@gmail.com. And the stickers are great for the frame. You know, I really like them on the frame of my bike.
Oh, yeah. The big ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the little ones you put on
my phone.
Your phone.
We got a listener email from Jonathan Weiss, who turned us on to Rail to Trail in Greenville, South Carolina, called the Swampy Rabbit Trail.
Swamp Rabbit.
It was really interesting though, because it's like a 28-mile trail, right?
Yeah, multi-use, walking and biking, greenway.
And it has really revitalized the area around Greenville, South Carolina, where the trail is. And they have dealt with so many issues that we talk about on the show, Nick, about parking minimums and do bike lanes create business and equity for all and health and all these things. It sounds like really a wonderful trail.
Yeah, and it gets 2 million users a year. Who did that video about it? I saw it on that Reddit forum, F Cars. It was Road Guy Rob.
Road Guy Rob, exactly right. So I want to thank Jonathan Weiss for turning us on to that. And I love to see success stories, right?
Absolutely.
And on another positive note, I guess you might say, we have a returning guest. Sonya Chapnick is with us again. She was on the show last year, almost a year ago, episode 2501. And Sonya is sight impaired. And she is stoker extraordinaire, which means that she is on the back of a tandem and does all the heavy lifting for the captain of the tandem. Sonya, welcome back to Bike Talk.
Woohoo! Thanks, Taylor. I'm so happy to be back.
Yeah, it's really great to have you on the show again. But you're here for another reason a little bit, which is to talk about tandem captain training program. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I was able to, in conjunction with several very extraordinary tandem captains, put together a facilitation of training some captains, because
which is the person in front, the person who steers, right? Okay.
Correct. So whether it's a captain or a pilot, they're the one in charge of the bike, and there's a lot of nuances to tandem captaining. And this is so that anyone who's been really interested in learning how to do it, but don't know how to go about doing that, to join us. It's a very specific little workshop that we've developed. A couple of the other captains, like I mentioned, help me facilitate this. So we train them to be able to learn how to first ride the tandem without a person on it, and then how to ride with the actual facilitator instructor that's sighted, so that they can kind of give them a little bit more guidance. And then they put a visually impaired or blind person in the back, so that there's really this trust building in their own skills. And then once we can get the stoker, the blind stoker on the back, then they can build a rapport and learn together how to communicate and things like that.
As I recall from last time, and if you haven't heard the first interview with Sonya, do go back to episode 2501 from last year because it's really interesting. But as I recall, the captain is also a little bit of a tour guide. They sometimes explain a little bit about what's going on or where they are. And your captain, at least one of the captains that you've had, was also sort of a poet. He was
Yes.
very much into describing the landscapes.
Yes. So Frank is my typical captain. We ride about once a week, and he is a poet. He is a lyricist because he's a musician, and he really enjoys the explanations and the descriptions of what's happening. So the captain's required to give insight to what's about to happen.
Right.
So it's not just for safety, okay, we're going to stop or we're going to turn right or left, those kinds of things. But the bonus is that then, oh, there's, this beautiful blue ocean today, or
Right.
the sky has no clouds, or, because we're in California, sometimes he can notice the mountains in,
Right.
way far away.
The
And it's
smog is
just,
cleared.
yeah, it's just exciting for me because it builds my experience. I can feel the wind in my hair, and I can smell the flowers blooming, and I can hear the birds. And if I get even more, because before I lost my sight, I was a very visual person. I enjoy having the picture complete for me. So
Oh, I
it's
didn't realize
exciting.
that you lost your sight at a certain age. When
Yes.
when was that?
Is a very slow progression. In my sort of mid 20s, I started to lose my eyesight. And now I have very, very limited eyesight. Most of it is like dark adaptation in my peripheral field, but it's diminished quite a bit.
Right.
So it's, yeah, it's just a
Wow.
different experience.
Let me ask you, were you a biker before you lost your eyesight?
I was as a kid, and
Sure.
even through high school, I loved riding bikes. And it was one, I always had a bike until I started
Until
having
you could
my
drive
eyesight.
a car.
Yeah. And actually, it's interesting because I sold my bike before I sold my car when I couldn't drive anymore.
Right.
So, it took a long time to be able to be okay with that transition. And now I try to get on the bike as much as possible. So,
Yeah, I love that. Well, can you tell us really quick when the clinic is and
yes.
who it's through and how people can find it and how
Yes.
people who don't live in Los Angeles, because you live in Los Angeles like I do,
Correct.
how people who don't live in Los Angeles might find a similar type of program if they want to get involved in being the captain for sight impaired cyclists?
Yes, such a good question. It's part of why I helped develop this tandem captain training clinic for the local area. This particular one is January 24th,
Right.
which is next Saturday. And then we'll have a tandem community event on the 31st. This is through Wayfinder Family Services. And for anyone that is not here in LA, my biggest suggestion would be reach out to any local group. I mean, even if you Google tandem cycling in your area, something might come up. And sometimes a bike club might actually have a tandem, or someone who likes bikes enough tends to maybe have also a tandem because they are interested in that experience as well.
Right, right. So they can just reach out to a local tandem organization or a local bike organization
Yeah,
and ask if they have a program like this. I
correct.
had a tandem for a little while when my kids were young, and even though they were small, I still found it a little bit difficult to captain a tandem with the weight of someone on the back who wasn't always, doing what I wanted them to do or what I expected them to do.
Yes. This is why it requires some skill. And I think it's also what intimidates people about it. I mean, it can be very intimidating to think, oh, I'm responsible for another person on the back.
Sure.
And then if, for instance, in our group, some people have never even been on a bike before. And that's part of why it's really important, I think, for people who may not normally have an experience like this to have access to it. Right. And it just expands the outreach and also helps to prevent limitations. So that's something that's really important.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we just have so much gratitude for the captain who's willing to be generous enough to put their skills at work in partnership with the person that's on the back. And it requires a lot of, I think, generosity, because it does take time and effort to build that rapport and to have that.
I would say generosity on their part and trust on your part.
Absolutely.
Before I let you go, I wonder if you could try to explain to the sighted audience of what it's like to be on the back of a moving bicycle going 30, 40 miles an hour sometimes, down a hill or whatever. Occasionally I close my eyes when I'm on the bike because it's such a freeing feeling, but you obviously can't do that for more than a second or so. How does it feel to you?
For me, it's one of the most exhilarating and liberating feelings to be able to have access to that kind of freedom and connect with nature, because we're out in the beautiful, sometimes it's not always beautiful, but it's very difficult to explain, except that I get so much joy, and the people that ride with me know that I am filled with joy, because I will make lots of sounds like wee or woohoo, or it's just one of those things that it's great. It helps to fulfill my experience in life, and it's why I've been really wanting to have this more robust tandem community, because it's something that's really worth experiencing, and to, even if it's a little bit scary, to kind of be in that place of being brave enough to try something and to find out if you like it.
Right. Try it.
So
You'll like it, as they used to say in the commercial.
Yeah.
Well, Sonya Chapnick, thank you so much for coming back on. It's the Wayfinder Family Services, and they're in Culver City, California, which is, part of LA. It's a tandem captain training clinic, and it's on Saturday, January 24th. And then there is the following Saturday, there's a tandem event that if you do the captain program, you can actually go out and ride with a stoker who will do all the work for you.
It's so fun. And then for anybody who is visually impaired that might be listening and wants another social connection, there's a group, Hearts for Sight, also, that can be supportive in mental health and all of that. And Taylor, thank you so much for all you do for the bike community. I mean, and especially the fact that you're coast to coast and you even have some international experiences. I think it's really a great service to us all who love bikes.
Well, thank you, Sonya. We will talk again, and hopefully we will ride one of these days.
Yes, you're invited to join us anytime.
Great. Thanks.
Be well.
Nick, you know what time it is? Well, it's time for Charlie's News.
All right.
Was that bad?
No, that's great. And were you planning that?
No, it just came to me. I'm crazy that way.
Hey, it's Charlie here with the week's news. From Streetsblog Empire State, New York Governor Kathy Hochul proposed a program that would require super speeders to have speed limiting devices installed in their cars. The limiters would be a hugely important move because drivers frequently keep driving even when their licenses are suspended. According to StreetsblogNYC, between 2019 and 2024, 27% of NYC traffic fatalities were caused by an unlicensed driver. The program will start in the city, where they will decide the exact threshold for installing a device, and then other municipalities in the state can opt in later. Bike advocacy groups and departments of transportation around the nation are touting their bike lanes that were named some of the best new bike lanes of 2025 by People for Bikes. Providence, Rhode Island, Madison, Wisconsin, Columbia, South Carolina, and Tempe, Arizona are cities that boasted new bike lanes on the list, and you can check out all of them and their forward-thinking features at peopleforbikes.com. From the Hudson County View, Princeton MPA candidate Maya Ponton Aronoff writes about a piece of New Jersey legislation that makes all e-bikes the same classification, requiring riders to get a license and an insurance policy. This, of course, makes some individuals unable to afford riding their e-bike and encourages stop-and-frisk style activity. Ponton Aronoff cites countless other reasons this bill is terrible, which you can check out in her article, and urges Governor Murphy to veto the legislation. From CBC in Canada, Cycle Toronto launched a Freedom of Information request to find out how much the Ontario government has spent fighting the legal battle over bike lane removal in Toronto. It was revealed that up until the July ruling that the bike lane should stay, the government had spent nearly $270,000 on external counsel to fight Cycle Toronto's case, and that doesn't include money spent on its own lawyers or what it owes the applicants in the case. As Cycle Toronto's executive director Michael Longfield points out in the article, that money could have been spent on other legitimate traffic calming measures. Gotta love Doug Ford.
Charlie, thank you very much for the news. But Nick, I think we got to talk a little bit about this Kathy Hochul Super Speeders pilot program in New York City. You know, we often say, how can they limit e-scooters and stuff, but not limit cars? And it looks like they finally might be doing that.
I guess they're going to have a better chance at getting it through if it's people who already have a history of speeding and getting tickets.
Right. And that means maybe the next thing would be if you are a drunk driver, you have to blow through a tube to start your car or something.
Or also have a speed limiter.
Right.
I mean,
right.
at least. Yeah, both. Or
So
just not
what
have a
else is
car.
going on in New York?
Glad you asked, because it's time for the New York Minute with New York City Streets blog editor Gersh Kuntzman.
Hey, I'm biking here. Yeah, it's great to be here, guys. And I know I only have a minute, so I'll make it real quick. You mentioned the super speeder thing. Also coming out of Governor Hochul's State of the State address was a proposal, and this is a terrible proposal, a scandalous proposal, to reduce the cost of car insurance for car drivers. Now, the problem with this is she wants to reduce the cost of auto insurance premiums by reducing the compensation that insurance companies would pay to people who have been seriously injured by car drivers. So if you reduce the compensation, suddenly you're leaving people in the lurch. You're making car insurance less expensive, which is going to increase driving, which as a result will cause more congestion, more crashes, more serious injuries, and more lost productivity. So this is a lose, lose, lose. And let me put the icing on the cake. The bill is sponsored by Uber with an AstroTurf group called Citizens for Affordable Rates. You know what that spells out? Predictably, car.
Yeah.
So this is a boondoggle on top of a boondoggle on top of a boondoggle, and I hope you guys will help us fight it.
You know, I'm glad you said that because I would have thought that's a good thing to lower car insurance for people. But you turned me on to why it's not right away.
Yes, Taylor, you are, like all of us, embodying your oppression, and that is the oppression of the car.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gersh.
Boy, that was a minute, man.
I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Gersh Kuntzman of StreetsblogNYC.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. And, you know, Nick, we have to have him back on again to talk about his side hustle of unmasking license plates so people pay their fair share.
Yeah, it's very inspiring. He takes a picture next to the unobscured license plate like he's a hunter with a trophy animal.
You know, I didn't even know people did that, but of course they do. They cover up part of their license plate number so the toll readers and the bridge toll readers and things like that don't know who they're trying to ticket.
He's like a superhero, unmasking the criminals.
You know, last week we had Jacob Wasserman on talking about congestion at LAX, Los Angeles International Airport. And this week we have Emily Badger on who's talking about congestion pricing. Maybe there's a connection of the two. Maybe what's working in New York can work other places. We've we've been talking a lot about New York lately on the show, but it's mainly been around the new mayor and the new administration, Zoran Mamdani. But there is a bigger story, I think, right now. And Emily Badger from the New York Times is here to talk about her article in the Times about congestion pricing. It's been a year since it started. Emily Badger, welcome back to Bike Talk.
Hi, Taylor. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. And I read your article. I think it came out on the 5th, maybe Monday or something like that, which was right around the 1 year anniversary. Where do we stand with congestion pricing?
Yeah, so Monday was exactly 1 year since it began. This program launched on January 5th of 2025. And, very early after it launched, we talked about this last year, there was a lot of extremely obvious evidence that it seemed to be working.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, including the governor's office, including the MTA, including the media, were sort of waiting for more time to pass to see, things settle down, people develop new routines. What can we really say about how this policy is working after, a lot more time has passed?
Right.
And so, the sort of top line takeaway from it 1 year into the program is that it is basically working exactly the way the MTA had hoped that it would. It is deterring about 11% of vehicles that we think might otherwise have been entering the central business district of Manhattan if this congestion pricing didn't exist. Speeds are improving. They're not improving by like 20, 30%, or,
Right.
they're improving by small numbers, but small numbers kind of mean a lot if you're making this commute every single day. So I think it's kind of important to caution that, we see improvement. There remain plenty of New Yorkers, and I have heard from them this week, who don't believe they can see those improvements, but in the data, they're there. And then, there are these other kind of knock-on benefits that are happening because there are fewer cars, because traffic is moving more freely. We're seeing buses move faster, buses be on time more often. We're seeing safety improvements, particularly in the congestion zone. We heard from a lot of people who just told us anecdotally that they felt like the streets are safer, the crosswalks are not blocked as often as they used to be.
Right.
We can, in fact, tell in 311 data when New Yorkers file complaints about vehicle noise, those have
I love
declined
that one.
considerably. Yeah, yeah. So, a lot of people sort of anecdotally feel like it's quieter, it feels a little bit more peaceful, but in fact we can verify that with looking at complaints that people have made, and in fact, they're making fewer of them.
Right. And they have made money. It sounds like they've even overshot the goal of raised revenue for the MTA.
Yeah, so they were projecting to raise about $500 million in the program's first year. This is after expenses. And they have raised about 550 million, so a little bit more than they expected. And so, by that metric, the program is a success as well. I mean, its sort of primary goals were to improve traffic and to raise revenue that will then be used to invest in the public transit system. And so, by both of those metrics, I think it would be very difficult for anyone to look at the evidence 1 year in and say that this program did not work, or was a failure, or was a bad idea. I mean, there are still, admittedly, plenty of people who don't like it because they don't like paying the toll. But according to its public policy goals, it's working.
Right. Kathy Hochul changed the price point from $15 to $9 kind of at the last minute. What's your take on that? I mean, I know it's raised more money than you thought. Do you think that the benefits are less because of the lesser charge, or is it working out okay? And is there a plan to raise the toll gradually as time goes by?
Yeah, so this was probably the biggest question that we had at the 1 year point. We knew that there were these clear benefits in the first couple of months, but I think it would be a very plausible story if those benefits were sort of tailing off over the course of the year.
Right.
If they're not as clear now as they used to be, because this was one of the great fears about Governor Hochul lowering the toll to $9 instead of $15, that it's just that is not high enough to change behavior the way you want to change behavior. And so I would say that was my biggest question: is the $9? Does it look like it's still working? Does it look like it's enough? And when we look at monthly data, not just sort of the aggregate totals over the whole first year, it is remarkably consistent that about 10, 11, 12% fewer vehicles per month are entering than they would have expected. So
Right.
that has held really consistent. When we look at the MTA speed data, it's a little bit choppier. It bounces around month to month, in part because there's some seasonality to traffic patterns in this part of the city in particular, because it's the central business district. Um, some of the biggest speed gains were in the spring, but we do continue to see, pretty clear speed gains through October, November.
And when you say speed, you're not talking about necessarily just the speed that the car is traveling, but the speed with which the car gets through a certain traffic zone or something like that.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to measure speed, and there are multiple people who are trying to track this, not just the city. There's also a group of researchers out of Stanford working with a team of people at Google who have been using the data that Google collects when you drive around and you have Google Maps open.
Right.
And so, their data is super helpful because it's sort of external validation. We don't just have to get it from the government of New York or the
Right.
MTA.
Right.
And so we see speed improvements there. The governor released in particular, not just sort of average speed changes in the entire congestion zone, but specifically how is traffic moving through these really tough choke points into Manhattan.
Right.
So these
Okay.
are the main tunnels and bridges from New Jersey, from Brooklyn, and the speeds are really up in those locations. And then also, we can tell how speed is moving because we can look at bus speeds. Buses all have technology on them that enable the MTA to track their speed. So we know that from a number of ways. But to come back to your previous question, I do think that it is a reasonable expectation that over time the benefits will be blunted somewhat because
Right.
people will get used to it, and some people will decide, actually, I'm willing to pay $9. And so when the governor said she was going to lower it to $9, she did say we will raise it gradually over time. And so there is a schedule for it to go up to $12, and then it will eventually go back up to $15. And so it is baked into the design of the policy at this point that you have to continue to sort of ratchet up the treatment in order to keep getting the effects that you want. And hopefully also, as more people are shifting onto transit or other modes, or they're not driving, in theory, you would want the revenue to decline, right? Like if this policy is working,
Right.
it makes less money over time because fewer people are paying the toll. So you also have to sort of increase it a little bit in order to still be collecting the revenue that the MTA estimates that it needs in order to invest in transit.
Right. Well, 10 or 11% less cars per day works out to about, and you say in the article, about 27 million fewer car trips in that area each year.
Yeah, it's a remarkable number.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, and anyone who sort of spends a lot of time thinking about traffic or sitting in traffic, you probably know this. I mean, the the way traffic works, when you are stuck in gridlock, if you're on a highway and there's a lot of traffic, you only have to remove a relatively small number of cars in order for speeds to pick up.
Right.
If you're on a free-flowing highway and you remove some cars, that has no effect. It doesn't
Right.
matter to you. But the way the central business district in Manhattan is, it is so congested, and those choke points into Manhattan have been so congested that removing what may sound like a relatively small number of cars can have an outsized effect, just because this is the way that traffic
Right,
works.
right. Well, that's a great point. I'm glad that you mentioned that. I spoke with Charles Komanoff a while ago, and he's an economist from New York and a big traffic advocate, or an advocate against traffic, I guess you might say. But he had said that it's going to have a benefit not only for the people in the congestion pricing zone, but for people outside the zone also. And I think he was going against what seemed like intuitive argument that people will drive and leave their cars right outside the zone or something like that. But has that proven out that there is less traffic outside the zone as well?
Yes, this is, I think, one of the most interesting findings about this program. I mean, everybody was focused on what were its effects going to be in Manhattan, but and a lot of the fears that people have, you're right, were about, would people just drive to other
Yeah,
locations, or would
around
they
it,
wind
right.
up driving around and contributing to traffic in other places? And so what we see so far is, not only has it not just shifted all of these car trips to other places, making traffic worse in other places, it has actually produced, again, very modest in size speed improvements in much of the region, in the immediate neighborhoods outside of the congestion zone, in other parts of the metropolitan area. And this is also borne out by the researchers at Stanford and Google using that separate data. And, if you think about it, like this makes a lot of sense, because if there are about 70,000 vehicles that are not driving into the congestion zone every day, those aren't trips that were beginning and ending in the congestion zone.
Right.
Some of them were beginning in New Jersey, and some of them were beginning in Brooklyn, and then they were ending in the congestion zone. And so when that person doesn't take that trip from New Jersey, that is a car that's not in the congestion zone, but it's also not along, all of the local roads and highways that lead you into Manhattan.
Right.
And so, taking these vehicles off of the road in Manhattan has had the effect of taking, many of them, I don't think we can assume 100% of them, but many of them off of roads all around the region. And we heard from readers as well, because we did a sort of call out where we asked readers to tell us what they were seeing, in New Jersey, in farther flung neighborhoods of Brooklyn, saying, I can see in my neighborhood that traffic is better.
Wow.
We even heard from one reader who was like, I don't know why this is possible or why congestion pricing would have this effect, but there appear to be fewer cars on this other highway over here. It's like, yes, that makes sense.
So Charles was right. I love that.
Yes, Charles
Yeah.
is right.
You know,
Charles is often right.
there's also a graph that I found interesting, that you're able to check how many cars enter the zone at what time they enter them. And so there is a spike in cars entering just before 5 a.m. and entering just after 9 p.m. And I wonder if you could explain that.
Yeah, so the peak toll is $9 for most vehicles, and it kicks up to $9 at 5 a.m. and it goes down to, I think it's $2.25 at 9
9 p.m.
p.m. in the evening. Yeah. And so the MTA is sort of tracking entries into the zone by 10-minute increments. So, who's coming in at 5, who's coming in at 5:10, who's coming in at, 4:30 in the morning. And when we look at this really kind of fine-grained data sliced by the minute about when people are entering, you can see lots of people rushing to get in right before the toll gets higher. And you
Right.
can also see people, rushing to enter into the central business district the moment the toll ends. And I love that graph too, because to me, that is the clearest indication that what is happening here is that public policy is changing people's behavior. It is causing people to make different choices about when they travel, about how they travel, about where they travel. I mean, it is oftentimes really difficult to draw a straight line from a policy that gets adopted and, people at scale choosing to make different decisions. And that is just not the case here. I mean, it is so evident, this sort of straight line from
Right.
this toll structure that has been implemented, and it is altering traffic behavior at a scale that we can see when we look across what tens of thousands of people are doing.
Right. Well, I know you can't see into the future, but we do know that the Trump administration is trying to uh, change it and reverse congestion pricing. But it seems like Kathy Hochul, the governor, and Mayor Mamdani are in favor of it. Do you see a path forward for congestion pricing in New York? And do you see that it could possibly be expanded either in New York or in Boston or other major metropolitan areas around the country?
Yeah, so over the past year that the program has been in place, there has simultaneously been this legal battle where the Trump administration would like to shut it down. Um, but a federal judge put an injunction in place temporarily last year that basically said the program can continue while the legal case moves forward. And we are expecting that judge to rule likely by the end of January
Oh, wow.
in a more sort of permanent capacity. I mean, that's not necessarily going to be the end of the story, because assuming the Trump administration doesn't win, they may appeal it, and this may, continue to be fought for a while to come. But I think it's notable that early in the Trump administration, the president and the Department of Transportation were, sort of saber rattling a lot about this
Right.
program and how they were going to shut it down. And they really stopped talking about it they've obviously moved on to a lot of other things,
Other
but
things,
I
yeah.
think that
Venezuela.
I think that they know that they are not likely to win this case. And in the meantime, this program is proving its benefits, and the evidence is accumulating that it's effective. I suspect it is growing more popular, although we don't have a lot of public opinion data about that yet. And the facts on the ground are such that it would just be very difficult to tear all of this apart at this point.
Right.
And I think it would be unpopular to do that.
Is it setting a precedent for other cities or for other areas, airports or, any kind of area where there is a real congestion? I mean, I wouldn't mind paying a couple of dollars, $5 to go to LAX and pick up my daughter from the airport if there was not going to be a massive traffic jam around Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think for people who would like to advocate for congestion pricing in other cities, it is enormously helpful to their cause that this has been proven to be successful in New York. But I don't think that we can assume that that it will work in other contexts in exactly the same way it's working in New York. I mean, Manhattan is just an extremely unique location, both for the quality of the public transit alternatives that
True.
people
Yeah.
have, and also we see transit ridership rising over this has been happening, and I think a lot of people are getting out of their cars and switching into transit, and that's partly a reflection of the fact that people take trips into the central business district in Manhattan that you cannot replace by going anywhere else in the region. You can't go to a Broadway show in New Jersey.
Right.
If your job is in the financial district, you can't, avoid taking that trip. It's a place that people take essential trips to, and they can't just, stop going there.
Right.
And there are many ways for them to reach this location through means other than a private car. And so all of those things that I've just described are sort of essential ingredients to what's making this very effective there. And those ingredients don't necessarily exist, in any other place where one
Sure.
might daydream about having congestion pricing. Uh, but that's not to say that it wouldn't make sense in a lot of other locations, just to say that it's not going to make sense everywhere.
Right.
And, I'm sure any other city that says, look at New York, we want to try this too, there will be naysayers who will say nowhere else. And that
Right.
is a public policy debate that people will have.
Yeah, and people often say that this isn't New York or this isn't Amsterdam or something like that. What's your gut instinct after the first week of Zohran Mamdani being in office? How is he going to change the streetscape of Manhattan and go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first and foremost, it was extremely clear, and it was clear during the campaign as well, that he really cares about the streetscape. He cares about public transit. Obviously, he made free buses the sort of centerpiece of his campaign.
Right.
One of the first things that he did this week was come out and fix this heinous bump that was ruining lots of bike commuters'
Right.
commute into Manhattan. And I would anticipate from him that he is just going to take very seriously the kind of nuts and bolts of doing things like striping bike lanes and
Right.
caring about road fatality data and road safety. And, these are issues that are extremely important, but oftentimes, mayors don't prioritize them.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that we will see them.
Well, that's wonderful. Emily Badger of the Upshot of the New York Times, thanks again for making time to come on and keep us up to date with what's going on in New York and with congestion pricing. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That was Emily Badger of the New York Times on the 1-year anniversary of congestion pricing. And if you can make it there, maybe you can make it anywhere.
Yeah. So now we have Shane Quentin, who we've had on before. He works for Bicycle Transit Systems, the bike share operator provider in LA. But he's also a head mechanic at Bikerowave, the co-op on the west side in Los Angeles, one of the seminal co-ops.
Yeah, it's great. I've actually been there a couple of times, and it's right on Venice Boulevard. If you get stuck fixing your bike, Shane can help you.
Yeah, and it's volunteers and people learn to fix bikes. And this interview is by Liana, who went to Bike in Mexico City in September with Shane and interviewed him there.
Great.
My name is Shane Quentin. I am from the city of Los Angeles. I'm a longtime volunteer at Bikerowave. We're a not-for-profit, do-it-yourself bike co-op on the west side. We've been around for 16 years. I've been a volunteer for 15 of those. I'm currently a head mechanic on Thursday nights, and I'm on the board right now.
Tell our listeners what it's like on a Thursday night at Bikerowave.
Sure. So we're open Tuesday through Thursday on weeknights and Saturday and Sunday during the day. Weeknights, our hours are from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. Everyone's a volunteer, so that's when we get the volunteers to show up. We have a space with about 6 repair stands. We've usually got about 5 or 6 volunteers in there. People can come in, sign up, wrench on their bikes. We can walk people through anything from fixing a flat tire to rebuilding their whole bike from a bare frame. And we're on a sliding scale, so no one's turned away for lack of funds. Typically it's $11 per an hour, but plenty of people get a cheaper rate for that if they ask.
Nice. What are some of the more exotic bikes that have come through?
We recently got in this Japan market only 26-inch wheeled Univega, I think. It somehow wound up in the US and then got donated to us, and we fixed it up to sell. We get all kinds of weird stuff in. Like those old soft tail or soft ride mountain bikes with a giant carbon fiber boom that sticks out over the rear wheel that were popular in the 90s. A lot of old bikes with cotter cranks. There's a couple of volunteers that are way into rebuilding coaster brake hubs and internally geared old Stormy Archers. We get all kinds of stuff.
What do you think is the most important thing that Bikerowave specifically offers that has nothing to do with bikes? And we're talking about community support, we're talking about teaching people different things. What have you seen specifically in the last 15 years?
Bikerowave is about community and empowerment first and bikes second. The bikes are the metaphorical and literal vehicle through which that is accomplished. But it is a space where, for me and for others, you can show up whenever they're open, you can see someone you know, you can hang out and chit chat for a while, you can go chill in the lounge, and everyone's going to be pretty welcoming and be excited to talk to you about what you're talking about. It's also a space where, through working on bikes, people realize they have power or agency or skills that they didn't realize that they had. Some people come in who have never done anything mechanical in their life. You're really mechanically inclined, and you tell people that, and they're like, really? It's yeah, I can tell you're really good at this, and you'd be really good at this if you kept doing it. And it's also a space where we're losing more and more our right to repair objects and our ownership over our devices. Those are being sucked up by corporate overlords in a way. And then also when there's a sort of skill that people don't have that's a technical skill, it can be a black box. You take your thing somewhere to get it repaired. And even when someone tries to teach you stuff, it's rare that they put it in your hand and tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's this is your thing.
Yeah.
You're responsible here. You're going to figure it out. You're going to try and fail and struggle, but you're going to get it. I think that's an experience that people don't always get to have, especially with physical objects. I don't want to say it's a unique experience, but I think it's an experience that's becoming more and more rare.
Absolutely. It boggles my mind how everything is easy. You don't need to go to the grocery store anymore. You just type on a screen and groceries show up. You don't need to talk to people. Even video games and TV, the way we entertain ourselves is no longer anything in our hands. And so I've only been riding bikes for just over 1 year, and Bikerowave has been a huge reason, massive reason why I stuck to this hobby so hard, because even on my hardest day, I would show up to Bikerowave and I could just work in silence and just be around people and just absorb all of the crazy energy and people joking around and somebody answering the phone using somebody else's name and somebody sometimes I would bring a box of donuts, sometimes somebody else would bring a bunch of tacos or whatever. And just that sense of community has been huge for not only my mental health, but also being able to use my hands, because I don't consider myself very mechanical. But it's joyful to at least be able to like cosplay or like fake it until you make it, and then eventually I'll be fixing other people's bikes. Someday.
And like a lot of people are more skilled than they think they are or they're going to be. Like these skills are pretty straightforward. There's some finer points and there's definitely some rabbit holes and deep dives you can do, but like the basic mechanical skills, most people could do it and do it just fine and pick it up. You know, like
it's very satisfying.
You're not doing fine machinist work or whatever, you know. It's like, the other thing is like, it's also a space where you can be left alone. Like you can come in and be like, hey, I need a lot of help, great. But it's like, hey, I just want to work on my own thing. Unless you have like a fancy bike that everyone wants to talk about, then people might not leave you alone. But like, for the most part, if you want to just be left alone at work, you can. That'll happen. You just ask for that.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any particular success stories that you really love? Like somebody who came into the shop that maybe stuck around for a long time, or you really got to see a change in them?
I've seen a lot of people grow and mature through Bikerowave. I've seen people become leaders who maybe had not had an opportunity to access leadership skills in another realm. Folks that come in start off as like a patron, just working on their bike, then they get really into it, then they become a volunteer, then they become a really good volunteer. Then it's like, hey, you're ready to become a head mechanic, you can run your own shift. And people being like, really? Like, do you think? It's like, yeah, you're like, fine, like you're gonna do great at this. That's like part of the empowerment side too, is like realizing that you can be like a focal point or a facilitator of community, and like people can look up to you. This is a space where like that opportunity is going to come easier than like in a job, let's say.
Absolutely.
You know, or people who like just haven't found the right fit elsewhere in their life to play a leadership role. I've seen it happen there a lot.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
I went to that SAFE, the Streets Are For Everyone thing.
Yeah.
But my favorite talk was this intern who, was just doing this for school credit or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was like, I thought I was writing these letters to like a dummy account that they would just like look at internally.
Right.
Like she at first didn't realize that this was actually going to Congress people.
Right.
And that like everyone in the office was like watching and rooting for her. And she was and she just seriously just like took that power, you know, and just like grew into her own stuff. She's like, now I'm pursuing a career in like politics and stuff, which was so cool to see that fire in like a young person who like otherwise would just be treated like, you're too young.
Just like the mechanical skills where people are like, oh really? I'm like, you're telling me I'm like good at this? It's like, you're good at this. And like the same thing is true with like leadership skills or like knowledge. Like, you're all that time you spent on the internet just nerding out on like weird French road bikes or whatever, that knowledge is really valuable here. Like those bikes are gonna come in and people want to know what you have like stored away in your head that all your other friends are annoyed about you talking to them about constantly. Yeah, it's a place where people realize like the value that they have to share with other people. People are realizing ways that they can be helpful to others that they didn't realize they had.
You guys run a unpaid volunteer model on this thing, which boggles my mind. I look at these people and I'm like, what makes you come in every single Thursday? Like there are so many distractions, so many bike rides that we choose to not go on, to choose to come in every single Thursday, not getting paid. Like, what do you think people get out of the volunteering thing? What makes people keep coming back?
I mean, for me, for one, I have a co-head mechanic on Thursdays who's a very good friend of mine. And he'll be mad if I don't show up because then there's more work for him. So in a weird way, he's kind of kept me accountable for showing up. So for anyone out there running like different shifts every night, having two head mechanics, there's a kind of accountability, way easier for everyone. I recommend it. But the other one is like, I like it. Like I enjoy it. Like it's a thing that I get to do in my life where it's like, I have skills here. It feels like I get a win every shift. Where it's like, okay, cool, I just taught this person how to fix a flat and they had been struggling and not figuring it out on their own for like months. And it's like they got it and I saw the light bulb turn on and I'm like, that felt so good. And like that person's gonna keep that knowledge for the rest of their life. They'll probably tell others. Like if I can get one win like that a night, it's incredibly rewarding.
I love that.
Yeah.
Especially since your job is so dang stressful.
It is, yeah, it can be, yeah. I have very, very close friends that I've made through Bikerowave, jobs that I've had. It's plugged me in with like political activism, hobbies, bike touring, like a lot of it has originated with Bikerowave. It's given me back like way more than I put into it.
So leadership and co-op model,
Yeah.
very difficult to make sure that the co-op model doesn't fall apart. Bikerowave has been going on for 16 years. That's wild. It's anchored to the same spots.
Yeah.
You guys somehow pay the rent, and yet, like, you have a volunteer thing. Like, tell me, why is good leadership important, and also, like what qualities in good leadership do you look for?
The biggest thing, I think, is creating stability for your other volunteers. People want to have their efforts be seen. They want a little bit of structure. They don't want to be micromanaged. They need some encouragement, and they want to increase their skills and learn as well. If you can just like be nice to people, like that, it really goes a long way. Like people, you know, they're not sure. It's like a weird space. Like, what am I doing here? You know, and like to have someone be like, remember their name, be like, hey, thanks for coming in. Hey, would you mind helping out this person? Hey, nice job. Hey, do you want to learn how to do X, Y, Z? Hey, I'm gonna be here every Thursday. Like, just a little bit of encouragement and positivity, like, it just makes a huge difference. Because people have bosses that are jerks, you know what I mean? There's, like, as non-hierarchical as Bikerowave and other co-ops try to be, and like we try to have Bikerowave be as non-hierarchical as possible. Everyone's a shared owner of Bikerowave, equal stake. Nominally, no one has any more power than anyone else.
How many people in the co-op?
It's hard to say. I mean, active volunteers putting in 12 hours a month fluctuates, maybe 20, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like other people who volunteer every now and then or when they can.
So 20 consistent people in this thing.
Give or take, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. People have like, you know, they're like unsure, whatever, and you can be like, no, like I'm like a regular person. Like, this won't be an insane thing. It's gonna be nice. Making it easy, like they're dealing with like a patron who's like unstable or weird or whatever, and like you're like, hey, why don't we switch you out? Or just knowing that you're gonna have their back and kind of like keep an eye out for them.
Nice.
I don't know, cultivating really good volunteers and instilling in them like really good values. It's the people that like make or break it.
Yeah.
And like
absolutely.
setting an example for yourself, demonstrating that when someone comes in who's a little bit off, maybe they are neurodivergent, maybe their housing situation isn't so stable, maybe there's someone that like no one else that they've interacted with that day wanted to talk to them. And like you modeling like a little bit of compassion sets the tone for everyone else in the shop. And just treating people like human beings and teaching people to be like a little more tolerant. It's like, it's okay. You can like hang out with this person. They're not going to bite. Give it a try. Like you might be surprised. They might actually be really easy to work with, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, being part of this, having never been part of any mutual aid thing in my life before has vastly increased my ability to do that, and I really, really appreciate you specifically for that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to say?
There's other great bike co-ops in Los Angeles. The two that I have the most interaction with are the Bicycle Kitchen and the Bike Oven. Nice people, both spots. There's other people doing other community work, bike work, but those are the ones we know the best. They're also great locations. Go to whichever one is closest to you if you need your bike repaired.
Yep. All right. I think that's good.
When I first started at Kill Radio in Los Angeles and we did Bike Talk, it was inspired by the Bike Kitchen. And there was the Bike District, and that was at the heart of it. Bikerowave came out of Bike Kitchen. And you can hear in this interview how they still have this spirit of community empowerment and learning to fix bikes.
And, you know, all this came out of Eco Village, right?
Yeah, Bike Talk is a project of Eco Village.
I wanted to mention something that you sent me, Nick, about Eco Village, which was this Fix It Saturday where if you brought anything that was broken to Eco Village, they would help you try to fix it. Coffee maker, vacuum cleaner, bicycle. And I think that's so great because we're in this environment where we just throw everything away. It doesn't work, let's throw it away.
Shane mentioned the right to repair. You know, that's a movement now because there's things you can't fix. You can't open them or Work on it.
Yeah. But you get someone who knows what they're doing, who has the right tools, then maybe they can help you fix it.
Oh, I just wanted to mention that about these bike co-ops being community centered. The bike oven during the LA fires was an emergency aid distribution center. That was episode 2502.
That was Joe Borfo, right?
Yeah, Joe, at the bike oven. There was Bike Kitchen, Bikerowave, Bike Oven, the Valley Bikery, and then there's BC Libre. And then there's one in Leimert Park. It's Ride On. It's a bike shop / co-op.
You can build a bike. You can work on your bike. They charge you a nominal fee for a bike stand, and the mechanics like Shane or Joe help you through tricky parts if you get stuck.
Yeah. All right. Good show, Taylor.
Are we done?
Yeah, I think. Well, you want to keep going?
I felt like we were just getting warmed up. We want to thank our guests, Sonya Chapnick, Emily Badger, Shane Quentin, and Gersh Kuntzman.
Liana interviewed Shane at Bike.
Great, thank you. We, of course, always want to thank our regulars, Julie Richard, Josh Hagland, Amy Ziering, Lindsay Sturman, Stacy Randecker, Charlie Lighthizer, and Kevin Burton.
All right, now, do you have a quote?
You know, I do have a quote. I wanted to put this in last week, but our show was just too packed full of great information, so we had to cut the quote. But the quote is from Bob Weir, the founding member and guitarist for the Grateful Dead, who was really an interesting guy. He had a great quote. We've probably said it before, but I really like it. Bicycles are almost as good as guitars for meeting girls.
For him.
Yeah.
I think it depends how you ride.
And how you play, probably.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Ride safe.
This episode of Bike Talk is sponsored by the law offices of Pocras and De Los Reyes, with offices in Los Angeles and Bakersfield and serving all of Southern California.
Bike Talk is a project of CRSP and the Los Angeles Eco-Village Institute. And that was Bike Talk. If you have a story, a tip, or a topic, head over to biketalk.org and send us a message. Talk again next week.
I wanna ride my bike today. Keep me fit, get me there. I won't go stinking up the air. Leave behind the daily grind. Let your mind unwind. Give us life, pretend to life. Better get yourself a bike.
Get yourself a bike. Oh, 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 get yourself a bike.